talk more on the social structures of the communities and part of how has the demographic change and how has the social structural change of the American society has evolved in your observation across multiple, and then you being part of multiple families, you have seen many family structures working in different ways. So how is that, how can you draw, how might you draw some parallels between what's your experience growing up and versus an experience of an American growing up in this society?
Care does not equal competence. You can have parents who care a great deal, but who aren't actually very good at their job of taking care of children. And I will say that my adoptive father certainly cared a lot. He spent a lot towards my education. But he wasn't actually good at maintaining a clean or safe house. Harsh to say, but he just wasn't very good at it. If he had someone else with him who could have forced him to keep things proper, I would not have been taken away by Child Protective Services. You see, people who grow up in a two-parent household and both parents are attentive and they provide models to follow. A boy gets an example of a disciplined father and they get a reminder of nurturing from their mother, or a girl gets a reminder of how to navigate the world as a woman, and they have a model of what men to trust and which men to avoid from their father. But if it's one parent, that becomes much, much harder. So you see the children of single mothers who try to imitate the men they see, and quite often those men are not good men. And I was fortunate that when I saw my adoptive father, he had been in the military. He had developed self-control and discipline. He did not feel the need to intimidate people to feel tough. But many of the children I saw did, because their model of what it meant to be a tough man was not the quiet discipline of the real-life military, but it was the macho toughness of the gangs. There was a relationship between fatherless boys and gang recruitment.
And talk more on the challenge and the impact of fatherlessness in the households, in the American households, and how has that impacted in the youth and the next generation who would serve the country, who would be the leaders of the country, who would be playing roles to be the doctors, to be the accountants, to be the politicians, playing vital roles in the coming decades?
Young people naturally yearn for glory. They yearn for meaning. They yearn to care for something. And the model of what that means first comes from one's parents. And if examples of that are lacking, they will seek out examples. And those are not necessarily good examples. Children need the people around them to provide clarification of what common slogans mean. They need people to provide examples of what it means to contribute to the community. So in many respects, the children who go out and get into fights and abuse others or join gangs are fundamentally being betrayed by their communities, because those communities can step up and provide a clear example to follow and clear examples to avoid. And you see it all of the time in the military. There are young men who try to make a name for themselves on the streets by being aggressive. And they join the military. And they are aggressive. But eventually they turn that aggression into something productive, something great. That yearning for distinction that can be channeled into something great. But very rarely does civilian society provide that channeling effect. So you have a young child who could be a great doctor. They have a fascination with biology. But if they express it in their neighborhood, they could get beaten up. So they learn to hide it. They ignore it. Or maybe their biology teacher is an idiot, because poor neighborhoods get the worst teachers, because poor parents can't advocate for their children to get good teachers as well as rich parents. So the result is young children who have potential end up getting stymied.
Wow.